Yeah, the song's called "We Care a Lot." It's a cover by a band called Faith No More out of the Bay Area.
JediRich did all the music production.
They're kind of my favorite band in 1987. Okay, that was a little sneak preview, you guys. Okay, so that's going to be a video we're working on right now. But today, okay, so we went out. When did we go out to Raider Stadium?
Yesterday.
Yesterday, we went out to Raider Stadium, shot some footage, and
No, maybe the day before.
okay, maybe the day before. But JediJoy, we got some footage, and she's going to go over it right now. We're going to show you guys how the stadium's coming along, give you guys some updates as well.
Well, I think it starts about 2017.
Okay, so go ahead and roll the video and walk us through what you got.
Okay, so in the beginning here, this is 2017. This is when we first saw this first sign that they put for the Raiders are coming. Hey, we're at the Raider Nation Preview Center here in Las Vegas at the Town Square. Look at this clip we were showing. Like, here's the stadium. This is 2018. Last year we went there. Oh, here's the progress. Oh, Richard, here's the progress. See, look at what the stadium looked like. This was live.
They're right up on top here. Look, they put a camera up here, guys.
Last year, see, there's the countdown.
We'd walk out there about once a week, it seemed like back then.
Yeah. So that was now, and then this is then, now. This is now, so you can see the difference. This was then. See, we're showing, like, look at now. Look at how much they have done. I mean, look at, that's the back side. They have, it's almost fully enclosed. Then, this is like last year. And then now, I mean, look at these guys have done so much work. It's looking beautiful. And this was then, this was just last year, just a year ago. And then it's just crazy, all the progress. These guys just really have done amazing on this job. So we love just to show all the work they've done. I mean, in a year, it's just gone from right there to like almost a whole stadium now. It's crazy. Because, you know, for the first year, they were primarily just excavating. This one right here is, you know, when they were excavating. And then now, look at this. Wow. It's kind of crazy because we kind of went about once a week, so you didn't really even realize how quickly it came up. But now it's just like to see the difference. So we wanted to show you guys some of these before and after photos.
Yes.
Because these are the photos that we took just about a year ago. Some of them are 2 years ago, but primarily most of them were last year. Here's the front side. Like, it's really coming together. It's just amazing. We're going to have the Raiders here, 2020.
Hey, it's Wednesday, May 29, 2019. We're down here at the Raiders Stadium. We haven't been down here in a minute, and they have put up so many trusses, and the whole backside is almost filled in. So pretty soon, you won't be able to see very much of the inside when you come driving around and walking around, because it's going to be all enclosed. So stay tuned for updates on JediRich.com.
So that's when we went down there on Wednesday. See, these are all new photos now. I mean, look at this. Look at, it's really cool to see all those guys. Look at how they work all day on those cranes at that elevation. They must just be in the best shape. It's crazy.
You ever see Say Anything?
With JediRich.
Yeah, with John Cusack.
I don't even think you finished what the point of that was.
Well, don't you remember when he was holding his
Oh, I didn't even get the...
that's what I felt like.
That's awesome. I didn't even get the joke till now. I didn't even understand the joke till now. I thought you had more to say to that. So here's, look at this. This is so, they have, I don't even know how many trusses they have up now. They've been just flying, putting those trusses up. It's crazy. It almost like is the whole top now. You're like, I think that, I don't even know how many they have left. So you'd have to probably check, what is it? Was it Raider? Raider 67.
Yeah, check out Raiders 1967 on YouTube.
He keeps like a pretty more often up to date, like where it's like weekly or even more often than that.
Yes, he's the official source for like the daily regular updates.
Yeah. We like doing a more broad, like then and now, and like show like more like every couple of weeks the progress. So look at this. This is the backside. So if you were coming away from the strip, like if you were coming from LA, this is what you'd see first. Look at all that work. So once they enclose this, as you can see now, it's almost getting enclosed. Then you won't be able to see.
Oh, you did good.
JediRich got a shout out.
Oh, that's so cool.
People are starting to notice us from the videos when we go out there. It's kind of cool. This area right here is a retaining wall that they had to build so that they could go build that road down into the stadium. But the problem is when it rains, the retaining wall starts to slide. So they've actually had to build this wall twice, and it takes a lot because it's just dirt holding it up. So once it gets rainy, it all slides on down. But yeah, right here, see, they're going to enclose this. This is from the backside, and then you're not going to be able to see any of the work being done. So this is kind of cool to get to see this now. Because we watched the T-Mobile Stadium go up, and you think it's all this time it's been going up, and then before you know, they got the outside out, and you're like, oh wow, you can't even see anything that's going on. Remember that, JediRich? So once they put the outside, then it looks the same every time you drive by. So this is the fun time when you really get to see the progress.
Yes, yes. I'm really glad you put this together.
Oh, thank you. So look at these guys. This is they're working on another truss to go up. They work on the trusses down for a while on the ground, and then they lift them up. So I was reading about some of these cranes, and the Barnhart cranes are able to lift up to 3 million pounds. I'm not sure the one here.
3
I don't
million
know
pounds.
if it can lift. I heard it could lift 1 million. I'm not sure if it's the one that can lift
3 million pounds.
Can you imagine? These cranes are phenomenal. So this kind of yellowish orange one on the left there.
Now, would you say
that's
that
the one that I know it can lift at least 1 million?
Well, do you think that it could lift the Queen Mary?
I don't know how much that weighs, so I couldn't say. To be
Well, you
honest.
had your. Didn't you have?
I graduated on the Queen Mary, yes.
I thought you had your prom on it or something.
No, high school graduation.
Graduation.
Yeah. In LA, in Long Beach. Yeah, so that was just a little bit of then and now for you guys, showing like so you can actually see like people don't realize like how much work they've done sometimes because they think like it should be done already. I think sometimes people don't realize like you have to go. They had to dig so far down, and they just had so many things they had to do, before they could even get started on the actual iron part of it, where you can start seeing it from the road. People weren't interested. We would go down there and take photos. No one really was interested. I was watching the dirt being moved around.
I remember that. Those were the days when I thought to myself, why am I taking pictures of piles of dirt?
We were the only ones down there. Now everyone kind of stops by when they go.
Well, I thought it would be an interesting task to try to make it more interesting. Oh, is it done?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, hey, thanks, JediJoy, for that update. Hey, guys. Okay, so, hey, for those of you that are Raider fans here for the station, you guys are going to check out now, probably, I imagine. For everyone else, we're going to continue on to the podcast.
Okay, cool.
So if you guys want to watch, stick around. If not, then go ahead and jump off.
Okay, perfect. I like that.
Okay,
Yeah.
so first up, what we want to talk about today is you guys have all been anxiously waiting, is our new theme song.
Right. Yes.
So,
yes,
JediJoy,
yes.
tell us about the background on that.
Okay, so we did this song called We Care a Lot. The song is originally by Faith No More, who were an underground band in the 80s and 90s. people.
They were out of the Bay Area.
Yeah, if some people say, oh, of course I know them, but for some younger people might not know who they are. So that they were popular then. You could look them up. But anyways, we did a cover, but the thing is, JediRich pretty much changed the whole song. So the song you're hearing is their lyrics and a little bit of their riffs, but most of it is JediRich's production.
Okay, well, it is definitely my production. However, I gotta tell you, I learned more trying to learn that song than I've learned in all. It was such a hard song to learn. So the reason why it turned into more of my production is because, you just kind of get so involved into it, and for those of you who know the song, it's a really, really cool song. And so, hey, anyway, here you go.
Oh, cool. We're going to play.
First opening scene. So you guys are going to get the first dip. So this is the raw edits, you guys. So don't be bitching that it don't clip right or things are wrong or this and that. Because I don't even have any special effects on or anything. You guys get to see it in the process. So this will be, we made this in Final Cut Pro for those of you kind of following along, learning how to edit. So here you go. Here's your first sneak preview.
I love it.
Welcome to the JediJoyRich Show. We're based out of Las Vegas, broadcasting live weekly from the plush studios at the Seagull Suites. Okay, so you guys kind of get what's going to sound like.
Oh, man. I love it. You guys, I just got my first show of it too. JediRich doesn't let me see things usually till they're done. No, I get little samples, but so that was the first time I got to see it.
Maybe not everyone wants to see us jumping around in underwear. Well, I thought it was entertaining, personally. In my opinion, most entertaining thing I've seen on TV.
We're actually in swimsuits, so no one should be offended.
Yeah, swimsuits. Yeah, we're actually in swimsuits, so.
So just for any people that have a difference between underwear and swimsuits, which I don't understand at all.
Yeah, what is the difference? Why is it that, if you wear... What is it?
I get people get mad at me for wearing underwear online, but then if I was in a swimsuit, which right now I'm in on a swimsuit for everyone in case you're...
Yeah, stand up, show them what you got. Show them what you're working with.
It's a swimsuit.
Yeah, but if what?
But if it was underwear, people would be like, oh my gosh, you're wearing underwear, which I don't understand. Tell me how underwear... Okay, the only argument you can say is that some underwear is more sheer than some bathing suits, but that's totally depends on the fabrics of the underwear and the bathing suits. I've seen completely sheer bathing suits,
and I've seen some of your underwear.
Yeah, and I've seen some.
Her
and
underwear,
I have some granny panty
underwears.
So, and that's what I tend to wear around the house is my granny panty ones.
She has some underwear like this kind of underwear like let's say if you got a really bad cut, you need something.
We've used them for that when we lived in the cave. We did. I had to manage JediRich with a pair of underwear before.
Okay. So hey.
No, but I don't understand that. So that is actually an issue. That's a little bit of sexual repression. If you're having an issue with underwear versus swimsuit.
Why? And what she's talking about is that thing where like oh my God, I can't believe that she'd walk around in her underwear, and then she turns around, grabs a towel, and they go in the pool, and then the lady's like, oh, okay, never mind.
Especially because nowadays some of those bathing suits are straight up like big. They're thongs, and they're like. I mean, some of them. Remember last time we went to the pool? We were like, wow, they've gotten pretty risque with some of the bathing suits.
Very risque.
Yeah, good,
oh
good
man,
for them.
I'll tell you what.
We enjoy it.
For those of you who are not from or visit Vegas very often, if you're looking for the latest trends in bathing suits, come to Vegas. Go to the pool. In fact, I think one of her ex-boyfriends, all he did was come to Vegas and go to the pool.
Probably still does.
And why wouldn't you? Okay, so hey, check it out. So here's, okay, I want to play more of my goddamn song, goddammit.
We care a lot
That's all you're going to see now.
I love it.
So we're getting there.
That was the first I got to see it. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
Okay. Because you know what? Hey, as you guys know, for everyone who's been following us, we care a lot, and you guys care a lot too. That's why you guys follow us. And the things we care about, let's start labeling them off not from the song. The song is the song. Beautiful song. Thank you guys for letting us use that. But go ahead and tell us what we care about.
Well, we really actually care about people knowing that they don't have to be like in a slave mentality. We want people to know that you can be free. You know, like right now in our society, people kind of make themselves slaves because you're a slave to greed. By, you know, like the more you think you need all of these things, you're making yourself a slave to your job by and a slave to your family or whatever it may be with greed, where, yeah, I get everyone needs to provide for themselves and their family, but if you're taking it too far, like how much do you need and how much does everyone in your family
Hold on,
need?
man. Okay, I thought she was going to say that we care about organics and eating high protein diets.
Well, I thought we
okay,
care
so you got a little
more
heavier than that. Okay, so that's great, but you kind of blow my mind though.
Oh.
So what she's saying is that we're all prisoners, we're all slaves, okay? And that but it's only because we've allowed ourselves to be convinced that we need things that we don't need.
Right.
And when we get But the problem is, most people, when they get what they need, what do? They kind of kick back, don't they? Right? And well, that doesn't work for the boss man who needs slaves working. So no kicking back. Now it's not the boss man's fault. Boss man don't even know he's a slave. He's running slaves. He's just doing his. He's a slave himself or herself doing his or her job. You know, being a manager, and his or her job is making sure these other slaves show up. Otherwise, this person's going to lose their job.
Right, people, you might say, oh, we're not slaves. That's very offensive to say, you know, because, like, there are actual slaves. And, yes, there were actual slaves, and that was way harsher than it is right now. I acknowledge that, and I'm sorry for that. But right now, there are people that are having job environments that are not much better. Some people have a little better, and that's where they kind of like, oh, I'm not a slave. But there's people that have jobs that are not much better than slaves. They literally are probably still picking cotton and fruit and whatever, you know, like there's
I don't know if
but there's those people, but then I'm saying, but
labor
then
jobs,
there's mental slavery. So even if you have a job that it might be a really enjoyable job, you might really love what you do, you might like make tons of money, but your mental slavery is that like you're letting your job control you in the sense of like whatever it may be, the reason, like if your job is taking over your life in the sense of you're working so hard to where your job is all you have and like but you hate it. If you love it, that's one thing. Like if your job is like with us, you know, it all incorporates together. But with some people, what I'm saying is their job has become their identity and they are not happy with that, and that's why they're depressed.
That's
well, then
a very good
that's
point.
The mental slavery that
That's
you're allowing your job to control your whole life because you say, well, I need my job. Well, what are the things you need? Like, do you need as much as you're making is what we're saying. Like, that's where maybe you could cut back a little bit to where that's the mental slavery. So it's not true slavery because you do have the choice, but you're doing it to yourself. We don't have slave masters anymore. You're putting your own self in your mental slavery.
Right. Well, what happened is that, well, there's different reasons. And the thing is that, this is a tough subject because you have to go back to we have to think about who our ancestors are and who are and that we're descendants of those people.
Right.
All right. So when we start talking about slaves and slave owners, well, either you were a slave or you were a slave owner, or you weren't involved in any of that because you lived out west like we did, or you were poor and then the middle class. So the majority of people weren't actual slave owners or descendants of slave owners. Those were very few people. The majority of people just went about their day wanting to buy the goods that the slave owners were selling them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's the one thing we have to understand here. Now, what happened is when they made slavery illegal, is that, well, what happened? Well, people still had to work. All that happened is they basically gave them coupons, and you couldn't own the people. You gave them the freedom. They could throw down the tools, but you couldn't own the people. So it's different than so. So what they understood very clearly was, like you said, they might have even, hey man, I still need to eat, so I might work here, but you know what? I don't have to, and you got to pay me now, and that creates a very different environment. Now, where I'm going with this, JediJoy, is that, well, those slave owners, they like owning slaves.
Right.
So.
Because they are greedy.
Because, well, yeah, that's the way they are.
It was a cheaper way to have labor.
Well, just whatever. It's just the way they view life. I mean, I don't understand it.
No,
So
they're super. I mean, it's
she
greed.
understands it better than I do. I
Well,
guess.
greed is the only explanation for that, because otherwise, like, how could someone be so inhumane and so like just treat people that
Well,
way?
I actually-
think
yeah,
that
yeah.
the greed is the only explanation.
Well, hold on. I back up, because the inhumanity. Guess what? They actually had to pay a slave master to do that. Now, how the slave master did it
Right. Good
was
Good
with
point.
alcohol.
Good point.
That's how the slave owner, man, if the slave owner had to do what the slave master did,
True, the
they would have
person that-
abolished slavery a long time
Yeah, the
ago.
person that had to beat the other person. Good
Oh
point.
God, I didn't want to talk
Yeah.
about that shit.
See,
but
that's
it's true.
where-
It happened.
Well,
It's
that
a fact.
person is still greedy in the sense, because if they weren't the slave themselves, it was probably the slaves themselves that they probably made hit each other most of the time, because
Okay.
who else would do that? Now I think
Okay,
about
there
it,
you
but
go.
you had to be, like I said, you'd have to be paid a lot,
Yes.
or you just have to.
Well, hold on. You nailed it on the head. Okay, you nailed it on the head. There was a very famous song back in the day my dad used to sing a lot. Maybe you guys heard it. I think it's by who was it by? Was it by the guy? Oh gosh, it'll come to me in a minute. But I'll tell you the name of the song. You sing that song. The Simon and Garfunkel guy. We went Paul Simon. Thank you, Paul Simon. I have a little producer in my ear. He just told me. Paul Simon did a song called "I'd Rather Be a Hammer Than a Nail." Now that's what JediJoy is saying, because you get the slave master to go be cruel to people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a situation where I'd rather be a hammer than a nail. I mean, do I want to be beaten by a slave master, or do I want to be the person beaten?
Man, see, I'd take the nail.
That's how I feel too. But
I'd be the nail. I couldn't beat another person. Like
well, but
that's what I'm saying. That's why
yeah,
it
that's true,
had
man.
to be.
That's true. That's true. I
Even
guess
that
now that you put
person
it that way.
Even that person that's willing to
Well,
beat
Paul
another
Simon
person
apparently-
instead
Paul
of take the beat.
Simon,
Well,
who-
there you go. There's the two different types
Okay,
of
there's
people.
a different. And Paul Simon is a very man. He
Because even if that person was a slave, okay, what we're talking about is if, like, when there were slaves, someone had to beat the slaves. So if that person was a slave themselves, then that person is still, I don't know what's wrong with them, because the fact that they chose that instead of just taking the beating themselves, they go, no, let me just beat my friend over here, my fellow friend over here.
Right.
So I would say, no, just beat me. I'm not going to beat the other person. It's either you or them.
yeah.
Well, I would take the beatings. I mean,
Yes.
my goodness.
And what we're defining here is, see, that's what differentiates a Jedi.
Yeah.
Okay, because now it sounds like, oh, you're being a martyr. No, there's a difference.
And you know I would take it.
Oh, I already know this. You would.
No way I would go
No,
beat
no,
someone
she would
else.
never roll. Yeah, she's just that way. And it's not because.
I even went to survival school. They couldn't get me a crack at all.
Oh, what happened?
Oh, well, when I was in survival school, I was in the Air Force. I had to go. I was a flyer, so I was on the plane. So I had to go through survival school, where they, you're in the wild for like a week or and a half or something, and then they catch you and you're like a prisoner of war for like 3 days. So you're in the prisoner of war camp. But they have these drills, and like you feel like it feels real. You kind of forget it's not real, because what happens is, it don't matter if it's a real life situation or not when your body is in that survival mode, because they've already, like, you've been in the wild for all those days and now they've captured you and you haven't been able to sleep or eat. It doesn't matter if it's real or not. It's still real in a sense. You're still really somewhere where they're not giving you food, shelter, and they're hurting you. So, in that sense, it's the same as being a real prisoner of war. So anyways, but they couldn't get me to crack on anything, because I don't know, they just kept having to, like, torture me more. And finally, they had to just put me in, like, they called it the academic mode. They're like, okay, no, you are taking it too far. Like, you don't have to, like, take a bullet for your name or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, because I wouldn't tell him anything.
Right. She Jedi Joy is one of those people. Just hey, she'll. Okay, and that makes her a Jedi, and so that was something that was just ingrained in her. And so you have to decide, who you are. Are you a person? And again, she didn't do this because to be a martyr. She's actually very selfish. No, I'm serious. Because she knows that it would just be easier to be beaten than it would be to have to wake up every day to go beat someone.
Right. Yeah, that's a lot.
I mean, she wouldn't want to get out of bed. She's thinking through like, man, if that would be my life. Every day waking up, I would hate myself. Just go ahead and beat me, kill me. In fact,
Yeah.
is probably her attitude.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's not that she's being a martyr. It's different. You see, a martyr does it because they want you to feel bad for her. She don't care
they
what
want
you
to do it for the show or something. Yeah.
Right, she don't give a fuck. She just it's like you give her a choice what she's going to be. Well, she takes the opposite of what we were taught. Okay, which leads us to what is important to us, is what we care about, and that's unlearning what we were taught. For example, I was taught, hey man, better to be a hammer than a nail.
Right, and I was not taught that because I grew up in a more poor family, and so we were always the nail. So
But
I don't
no,
think.
hold on, stop. That's not the message, because that's what you we were also poor when my dad was singing that. That's what you teach. Look, we're all nails. When you're telling that to the nails, you're not telling that to the hammers. You're saying, hey man, when you're a nail, you're saying you want to become a hammer. You want to get
Right,
a job.
but
You
I
want to
was-
get an education to be able to say this. And so even though that I was taught these things, I was able to unlearn those things throughout life. You know what I'm saying? Now, most people say like, man, what the problem is once they get into a little bit of authority, a lot of poor people, what they want to become, a lot of poor women, like they grow up in those environments, they want to become school teachers or cops or areas where they could be a hammer instead of a nail.
Right.
Now, even though you don't want to beat slaves, you're still oppressing people when you're a school teacher, when you're in that position now, or even a manager. So when you live in these neighborhoods, everyone's saying, I want to get an education. Why? So I can be the boss man. So I can be the hammer, not the nail. So before you go on to say how like nice poor people are and compared to rich people, no, rich people don't want to be nailed
No, I
either.
wasn't gonna say that.
Yeah, no, but that's usually the thought that happens. So
Right, no,
I
it's
didn't
not
mean
that.
to just jump in. I had
No,
to.
there's different types of
I
people.
had to kind
Yeah.
of give my little thought on that.
No, there's different types of people, and it has nothing to do with being poor or rich. But in my particular situation, being that I was poor, I never wanted to make someone do what I had to do. Like, we had to do the shitty work. Like, my mom
That's
was a
true.
janitor.
Okay.
So in that sense, I never, growing
see
up,
what she's saying now.
I never wanted to become a hammer because I was like, I don't want to make someone else
Right.
do
Okay. I
this.
see what you're saying. Okay. See, I grew up saying, man, I never want to be a goddamn
See, because
nail.
you didn't actually have to maybe
For those of you
clean
who
the
don't know, they're
toilets,
just
per
joining the
se.
show. Jedi Joy grew up very poor. Apparently, I grew up very rich. I didn't know this, but she
In
let me know.
comparison. Well, because like we actually clean the toilets. Like I went to a private school, which it was like people were like, "Ooh, a private school." No, it was like in trailers. It was in front of a church. It was a Christian
It's
school.
more like a private school,
But-
if you're on like a one of those cult compounds.
Yeah, like it was in front of a church, but the tuition was like $150 a month, but my mom couldn't afford that. So we had to clean the school, and then they gave us free tuition. So I went there for free in the trailers. They gave me free tuition in the trailers to clean the toilets and clean the whole school.